Joel, man, thanks for taking the time. I really appreciate your work.
Thank you, man. I remember I met you at Summer League,
That's
and
right.
Pierre introduced us, and he's like, "Yeah, this is a former hooper." And after that moment, I immediately had respect for you because I respect anybody that could play basketball at a really high level and also talk about and break down the game at a high level. And I feel like you do that.
So it's interesting. I actually was, and I appreciate that. I actually was playing basketball when I heard about Cooper going to the Mavs, basically. And my first thought, I want to hear where your thoughts went, but my first thought is the conspiracy theorists are going to have a field day because if you think about the best NBA prospects in the past 25 years, LeBron, Wemby, Cooper's in there as well. LeBron goes home. Wemby goes to a team that's known for their international sauce. And Cooper is a guy who is projected to be a generational talent. The Mavs just traded away their generational talent, and here we are. Is it all a coincidence, or are these conspiracy theories right?
I'm leaning towards the tinfoil hats, man. That's where I'm leaning towards. I just think there's too many coincidences for it not to be some sort of thing that's happening behind the scenes because when LeBron left the Cavaliers got three first overall picks, Kyrie, Anthony Bennett, and Andrew Wiggins, and they used that Wiggins pick to go get Kevin Love, and they formed a big three with LeBron, Kyrie, and Kevin Love. Then you look at in 2022, it was not really does like the Apollo year, but the Wemby stuff with the French ties, Tony Parker, international player, um, Derrick Rose going to the Bulls, hometown kid, LeBron going to Cleveland, hometown kid. There are moments that definitely make it seem like it's more than just a coincidence. But if it is rigged, man, why didn't Adam Silver give the Knicks Zion Williamson back in 2019? I mean, I'm not complaining now. I know how good we're playing, but at that time, we had the best chance to get Zion, and we didn't.
Yeah, it is. They did give him Patrick Ewing, which conspiracy theorists
Yeah.
would point to that as well.
It was the first time, the first ever draft lottery in '84, and then we got Patrick Ewing. And then ever since then, every time the Knicks were in the draft lottery, they never moved up in the draft. They always slid down from their spot, and it's a big reason why we were never able to get like top end prospects. But that draft stands out to me. I think it's good for the NBA though. Like my instant reaction was like, "Wow, no way!" Like Cooper Flagg is going there. It immediately sort of justified Nico Harrison because I think you make the Luka trade. You have no idea what's going to happen. I'm a big fan of Luka, but I do think it's fair to say before Luka got traded, all the moves Nico made were good moves, like drafting Derek Lively, trading for PJ Washington and Daniel Gafford, signing Najee Marshall, signing Klay Thompson, signing or trading for Quentin Grimes and taking a flyer on him, even though he traded him again to the Sixers. Like the moves he made were good, and now the fact that he's benefiting from the situation because he had no idea Kyrie Irving was going to get hurt, Anthony Davis was going to get hurt. They would have made the playoffs had they stayed healthy. But the fact that they have this roster and Cooper Flag is going to be added to it next year, it's going to make them a real playoff threat. And Cooper Flagg, I think this is the best for his development. I know that he's not going to a team and going to run the show, but I think him learning how to play a role on a winning team is going to benefit his career in the long run.
Going back to the Luka trade, did you have thoughts like there has to be something we don't know? And now when you heard this news that Cooper with a 1.8% chance is going to the Mavs, like, aha.
Yeah, that's exactly what I thought. This is too good of a storyline, and it's funny that you mentioned that because yesterday I was like pulling my hair out trying to figure out who was going to get the first overall pick, and my prediction ended up being the Wizards, and I had a lot of research to back it up. I had a lot of bullet points to back it up, and I was very confident. And then when I saw they got the sixth pick, my heart sunk immediately because I was so wrong, and I knew that usually when you're wrong about something, the views tend to go higher and people come back to that video. And then the Mavericks got it, and I just couldn't believe it. And it just felt so obvious when it happened. It's like, okay, they traded Luka. Cooper Flagg goes there. This is like the most obvious script ever because the Mavericks are going to be good. Like, are you ruling out that next year we could get a Mavericks Lakers playoff series? I think it's possible.
So just to pin you down, you do think there is like a little like rigging going on, or not at all?
I do think so.
Okay.
I do think so. Do you think there is?
Man, when it's this much of a coincidence, I mean, we just went through the history. I mean, it's tough to not have that hat on, right?
Yeah, I think not every year it's rigged. I'll say that. There are specific.
Well, there was no reason. There was no reason to rig it last year.
Exactly. You know, there are some years that it is like, okay, whoever gets it gets it. This doesn't matter really. But the Bulls having the lowest chances and then getting Derrick Rose, the hometown kid, the hometown hero, the marketability around that. The best storyline and the best business move for Cooper Flagg and for the NBA was him going to Dallas, because now you keep the Mavericks relevant in the storyline of Luka Doncic. And why that's important is because if the Mavericks suck, then there's really nothing to talk about when it comes to the trade. Luka goes to the Lakers. The Mavericks made a bad decision. You leave it at that. But now that they got Cooper Flagg, there's going to be conversations like, what if next year the Mavericks play the Lakers in the playoffs? And, I mean, look at the Lakers roster. The Lakers roster isn't good. The Mavericks roster is way better than their roster. What if they beat them in the first round? I mean, you start a conversation, you start a rivalry in the NBA. Oh, Nico Harrison was right all along. You know, Cooper Flagg, Anthony Davis, you know, this is what he saw. And Nico Harrison, you know, to be fair, when he traded Luka, he said that time will tell if I'm right. Unfortunately, this past year, Anthony Davis and Kyrie Irving got hurt, so they weren't able to make a playoff push. But now getting Cooper Flagg, like, you know, the chances of him looking right have increased significantly.
Yes, sensory overload has to be the case when it comes to the Maverick fans. If you think about it, over the past 12 months, they make it to the NBA Finals. Then Luka's hurt in the beginning of the season. Then he gets traded, which was absolutely crazy. Then AD hurts himself in the first game. Kyrie tears his ACL, and then they draft Cooper Flagg. I mean, this is going to spark a lot of documentaries in the future, I'll tell you that.
I agree. I think Mavericks fans have gone through so many emotions, and I'm jealous in one aspect because usually teams that make a move like this, they suffer for a long period of time. You know, the Knicks haven't made the conference finals in 25 years, and especially in the Melo era when Phil Jackson took control of the team, those were some really dark days, and I had to go through a decade of that, and the Mavericks go through a string of events that hurt them emotionally, especially the Luka trade, and then they get Cooper Flagg, and I'm not gonna lie to you, like, very soon there's gonna be a lot of Cooper Flagg over Luka takes. I'm not saying that he's a better player than him, but there's gonna be Mavericks fans that were so on board with Luka that start saying, oh, it's finally nice we have a star player that plays defense and plays both ends. We don't have to worry about that. You know, I feel like Mavericks fans, it's sad to think this way, but Mavericks fans are going to forget about Luka if Cooper Flagg lives up to his expectation.
With that said, let's say the Lakers hit your phone. You're now the GM of the Mavs. Nico Harrison out of there. They say, you know what? We want Cooper. We'll give you Luka back. Do you say no? Who says no?
The Mavericks say no just because they traded him. I think the Mavs would say no. I think that relationship is burned. If I'm the Lakers, I say no too. I'm gonna build around Luka.
Right.
If it was me and I'm running the Mavericks, I mean, I'm not trading Luka anyway, but I would immediately take that up. Like, I think Luka Doncic, they could have won the championship this year had he stayed healthy with the team he had. It was so good, and part of me feels bad because he carried a bad team for years, and the year he finally got his best team and things were trending up, they just rip him away from that situation and trade him.
Giannis, $54 million, $58 million, $62 million. With that said, if you were the Mavs, would you trade Cooper Flagg, a.k.a. the number one pick, for Giannis?
I wouldn't.
Mm.
I get the takes as to why you would. Everything sounds better in theory. In 2K, it probably wins a championship. Hell, in 2K, I won a championship after the Luka trade with AD and Kyrie. I simmed it, and I did win. Giannis is a risk to a certain degree for a team like the Mavericks. There are certain teams that make sense, teams that are more established. The Mavericks would have to give up the first overall pick. They would have to give up P.J. Washington, Klay Thompson, maybe Derrick Lively, maybe Daniel Gafford. It depends. They're going to give up at least like 3 to 4 players, plus like the first overall pick, the Lakers picks they got in the Luka trade. They're going to have to really empty out their assets to go get Giannis. The Bucks benefit. They get Cooper Flagg. They build around a franchise guy for the foreseeable years. But for the Mavericks, Kyrie Irving just tore his ACL. Anthony Davis is injury prone. Giannis, he just had a great playoffs, but last year he didn't play in the playoffs. And the year before that, he was injured against the Heat. You're banking on 3 players who you don't know if they're going to be readily available. So for me, I'm kind of saying with Cooper Flagg, I have a 10-plus year window to be really good and to be competitive and relevant. With Giannis, it's a big risk. I shorten that window to maybe 2 to 3 years max, and I don't know if I can rely on all of them as a whole all at once to be healthy.
I agree with you. I would also say from Nico's standpoint, it's incredibly risky, and he'll have a lot more job security putting stock into Cooper because you don't have to win right now. And those GMs just last longer. Those coaches last longer. We've seen Mike Malone get fired this year, Coach Jenkins. I mean, I think when you put stock into the long term, I mean, it's just better for your job security as well. I don't see a way that Nico would actually do it.
I don't think so either. You mentioned the job security. I think them winning the lottery, saved his job.
Yeah, that's true. Yeah.
It saved his job. Like he's going to have his job secured for the next 5 years, and he's not going to go off and work for Rob Pelinka with the Lakers.
What do you think about the Giannis to the Knicks buzz? I know it's a weird time to ask you, but I know you are a big Knicks fan.
I'm over it. I'm all in on this team.
Okay.
I'm all in. We're going to win the championship. I believe it.
Wow, really?
Yeah, I have the Knicks winning the NBA championship.
Well, was that your stance before the playoffs started?
Absolutely not.
Okay.
It was not. I thought we were going to lose to the Celtics in 5, and now
Me too.
I'm wrong. And that it is what it is. I didn't believe in this team in the regular season. We didn't win against any elite teams, but they're playing their best basketball right now. Jalen Brunson is one of the best playoff performers in the NBA. And quite frankly, I don't get scared of any team in the West. I think we would beat Denver. I think we would beat Minnesota. OKC, I don't think they have the experience necessary to get over the hump and to beat us. They have the defenders, but Jalen Brunson historically has given Alex Caruso the business back when he was on the Bulls. He can't guard Brunson. And I don't trust their players to show up in the biggest moment. Chet Holmgren, how does he look like on the road in a Game 6 at MSG? How does Jalen Williams look like? We have the defenders and OG and Mikal to guard any elite perimeter offensive player. Mitchell Robinson's an elite defender. He's going to be huge in his minutes. And Cat showed me something, man. In this playoff run, he's really proven me wrong, especially this last game. Yeah, he had his mistakes on defense, but the physicality he played with and taking advantage of mismatches, I didn't see that from Cat. And I'll say this to you. This is the first time I've said it anywhere on public airways. If the Knicks make the NBA Finals, I have 0 tattoos on my body. I'm getting tatted if the Knicks make the NBA Finals. Not even win it. If they make it. Once they beat the Pacers in the conference finals, I'm getting a Knicks tattoo.
There you have it. I'm going to pull that up if they get there. You mentioned the Pacers, and I heard you talk about the Pacers before, and I love the way the Pacers have embraced modern basketball, and they've made a lot of great, not flashy moves, but quiet moves that really worked for them over the course of time. Are you totally confident that the Knicks could get past them, because they have to get past them most likely, unless there's something crazy that happens with the Cavs, before we start talking about OKC?
I'm not confident. I'm confident, but I'm not ignorant. I think the Pacers are an elite team, and it's going to be a tough matchup. They beat us last year. I think we get our revenge this year when we're healthy, because last year we weren't healthy against
them. It's like a new rivalry too, right?
Yeah, it's brewing up again, because you had it in the early 2000s with Reggie Miller and the Knicks, the whole epic choke job thing, and now it's all coming back full circle. And fun fact, the last year the Knicks made the conference finals, it was against the Pacers. And they did beat us in the conference finals. To make the NBA finals and lose to the Lakers, I think we got our payback. Not only for last year, but for 25 years ago. And we make the finals this time.
Is Tyrese Haliburton overrated, underrated, or properly rated?
He's underrated. I don't
agree.
think he gets the respect he deserves for his floor mapping, how elite of a passer, playmaker he is, and he can take over in stretches. In the clutch, he's one of the most efficient players in the playoffs. In the clutch this year, he's been one of the most efficient players in the clutch in the regular season. Clutch player of the year went to Jalen Brunson, deservedly so, but Haliburton was like one of the 5 clutchest players in the league. I think the players voting him overrated was actually an indictment on how good he actually is, because I think the players voting in that way were clearly just hating on him because maybe he talks a little too much. But I think Haliburton is underrated.
And when you have a player that great, you don't want to put a battery in their back. It doesn't mean you're scared of them, but I remember when the Pacers Cavs series, and the crowd was chanting overrated, and Donovan Mitchell was like, just chill out. Just chill out.
And it came back to bite them. The Cavaliers have had this epic collapse that it's unfortunate that they got hurt at the wrong time.
Did you see this coming? Did you think they were just a good regular season team?
No, I thought they were a contender. I thought they were going to make the conference finals. I pretty much had it a shoe in that. Celtics, Cavaliers, conference finals, don't think anything about it. That's kind of how I thought about it. If I were to get in a coma right before the playoffs and I had woke up, I would be like very shocked. I'd be like, this can't be the same dimension that I was in before.
All right, so Knicks fans have been at my neck because of my Cade over Brunson take, and they're still in my DMs. They're hitting me up. And with that said, we'll get into one of your favorite segments, Would You Rather? And I have to go, would you rather, Jalen Brunson edition.
Okay.
Would you rather Brunson or Trae Young?
Jalen Brunson.
Would you rather Jalen Brunson or Donovan Mitchell?
Jalen Brunson.
Would you rather Jalen Brunson or Dame?
Jalen Brunson.
Would you rather Jalen Brunson or SGA?
Jalen Brunson.
Would you rather Jalen Brunson or Luka Doncic?
Jalen Brunson.
Would you rather Jalen Brunson or Steph Curry?
Jalen Brunson. I'm going with Jalen Brunson over everybody on planet Earth because he's going to lead the Knicks to their first championship since the 70s. And it's also factual. Shea might have won MVP. At least I think he's going to win MVP. In these playoffs, who's been better between Jalen Brunson and Shea? It's not even close.
Wow, over Steph. I just saw you on Gen Z versus the OG. I mean, you were bigging up Steph, man.
I do.
And
love
you got Brunson over him?
Not all the time, but right now where we stand,
obviously, yeah.
Right now where we stand, I would go with Jalen Brunson.
Okay. Well, you obviously have him over Cade.
Yes. Yes. Yeah, and I get it. I get the admiration with Cade. I do. But I do think that Brunson kind of got a little bit slept on coming into the series. Like, Cade could be the best player. Like, we haven't seen Brunson show up in the biggest moments in the last 3 years. Over the last 3 years, he's averaging 30 in the playoffs.
Yeah, it's fair. All right. So I know you love Brunson's game. Obviously, I didn't know you loved his game this much, but I realized that. And I also know you love Steph Curry's game. So we need a would you rather all-time great guards.
Okay, nice. I like this a lot.
All right. Steph Curry or Allen Iverson?
Steph Curry.
Steph Curry or Nash?
Steph Curry.
Steph Curry or Isaiah Thomas?
Steph Curry.
Steph Curry or Kobe?
Kobe.
Steph Curry or Bird?
Bird.
Steph Curry or Magic Johnson?
Magic.
Steph Curry or Jordan?
Jordan.
Yeah, I think I would mostly agree with you there. So where does he land for you all time, Steph Curry? In
Steph
what
Curry
range?
Is outside of the top 10. I think he's a top 15 player ever. I think this is a hot take. We have revisionist history about Steph Curry and Kevin Durant's time with the Warriors. Steph Curry has accomplished more than Kevin Durant. More championships, one more MVP. Kevin Durant is pound for pound a better player than Steph Curry.
100%. I
And I
totally agree.
think, like, if I'm ranking all-time players, and my all-time ranking is about a combination of accomplishments and who I think is the better player, I think Kevin Durant is over Steph Curry all time. There was no debate on who the best player on the Warriors teams with KD was. We all knew it was Kevin Durant. Kevin Durant with OKC, he carried some pretty bad rosters from a spacing perspective, but I do think that the evidence that points to KD being over Steph is the fact that Steph let him come to the team and basically take over in those clutch fourth quarter situations and let him take over those games. You know, Steph Curry deserves a lot of respect for being able to humble himself and take a back seat. And I think his leadership far outweighs what Kevin Durant's leadership is. But pound for pound, player for player, Kevin Durant, I think, is a better player.
Yeah, I'll tell you why I think you're right. When we're talking about Kevin Durant and Magic Johnson and Larry Bird and Michael Jordan, I think Larry Bird for sure. I think in any universe, they're all-time greats. And I think Steph Curry would always be great, but I do also think it was a little more situational with Steph than those guys.
I think the conversation about older eras and newer eras oftentimes gets toxic and hostile, and there's no room for understanding. I'm somebody that, yeah, I know that Jordan in the finals against Drexler, he averaged 35 points per game and he shot 43% from three when they said he couldn't shoot, and all he did was take jumpers to prove everybody wrong. You have to understand the difference in the games. In this era, probably I would say 2016 onward, these players are being encouraged to shoot threes. Back then, you weren't being encouraged to shoot them. If you shot two a game, that was a lot. It's like, okay, take it easy now. There's too much. You're shooting too much. It's unfair to judge players on their efficiency from three if they were bad back then, because I don't think they were taking enough of a sample size to really see or gauge how great of a shooter they were, because Jordan was an elite mid-range shooter. I'm sure that if he worked on threes and was just fixated on that in a similar fashion to Anthony Edwards this past offseason, who made a gigantic shooting leap, Jordan would have became a great three-point shooter. For his time, that's not what was required of him to do. And I feel like we oftentimes try to put these older players and say, well, how would their games fit here? And we try to take those same percentages and try to compare it to here. But if they're living in this time, they're working out, they're training in a whole different way that would unlock different aspects of their game that in that era they just simply didn't have to do.
Do you think the trend ever tips back? Obviously, in this era and going forward, they're always going to shoot a lot more threes than the 90s, but it is a copycat league. We saw a Knicks team right now who's about to beat the Celtics, a very analytically driven team who won a championship last year. Do you think there's a world where teams will taper back on the threes a little bit? Because a lot of these teams are shooting more threes than prime Warriors.
I think it's going to be a combination of how defenses play you. The Celtics have been overly aggressive at the three-point line, especially against Cat. And I thought Cat did a great job in game 4 of pump faking and drawing defenders in the air and then driving to the basket and finishing there. So I think we will never get away from the high volume of threes anymore. I think that is here to stay. You have to be able to shoot. I think the big men are coming back, though, where we see so many teams now have 2 to 3 big options that can play on the floor. So we're starting to go back to that era of basketball, but in a more spaced out fashion. I think there's going to be a balance with how many threes you are taking and just what the defense is giving you. You know, there are some moments that people nitpick, like, oh, this team took 53s. And then you rewatch the game and say, well, 53s were available to them. If I'm driving to the basket and you're helping off wings and you're leaving that shot open all game long, you're going to get 53s taken.
Yeah, we're seeing it already, right? I mean, we saw Mitch and Cat. We saw Steven Adams and Şengün. The Cavs aren't playing great now, but they got a too big lineup. I think we're seeing it more and more already.
We are, and they've been successful, and teams are only going to copy that.
Yeah. I actually really liked some of how it looked yesterday with Mitch and Cat. It looked good.
That's our best lineup, honestly. When those two are on the court, they can switch everything. they force the Celtics to take these settled jumpers, and that's kind of the best way to beat them.
All right, I don't want to age myself here, but you did such a great job of, I've seen you do such a great job of representing Gen Z. And from your perspective, Michael Jordan is going to be a contributor to the NBA on NBC, but what specific role would you like to see MJ when it comes to the NBA on NBC?
I want Michael Jordan to be as unfiltered and honest as he possibly can be. I want to see what he thinks about the game in every aspect, what he thinks about certain players, what he thinks about the Anthony Edwards comparison that has been drawn to Edwards for so long now. I want to see his unfiltered opinion, and I want to listen to everything he has to say about the state of the game right now. I think we see in the NFL, Tom Brady has done a really great job at doing that and really giving players their flowers, but it's a little weird because Brady is more restricted in what he has to say because he owns the Raiders, so he can't be critical or like overly praising a player or else it could be considered tampering. With Michael Jordan, it's so rare because he hasn't really spoken on the state of basketball in any way or fashion. So NBC bringing him in is one of the biggest gets in media, and I think it could swing the pendulum. I hope that Michael Jordan is more of the JJ Redicks of sorts of media than he is the Shaqs or the Kendrick Perkins. And I think if Jordan went down that line, I'd kind of be a little bit wary of how he's going to go.
Yeah, I don't see that from MJ.
I don't either. I think he's going to be very complimentary of the game today.
And if you are producing the show, you have a lot of experience, producing shows. Where would you place MJ? Would it be like play-by-play? Would you? I mean, MJ as a sideline reporter sounds crazy. Like we can't have MJ just, roaming the sidelines. But where would you put him in the show?
I would put him as an analyst, similar to how Kenny,
in game. Okay.
Yeah.
Like halftime.
Yes, halftime show, pre-game, post-game show. Yeah. That's kind of how I would use him, even if it's in a different ways. Maybe just one-on-one interviews and asking him like a question specific to the era. What do you think about the high volume of threes that are being taken today?
Yeah.
And you ask him these questions and he answers them, and he kind of answers like some burning questions around the NBA, maybe some film things like breaking down Brunson or breaking down Edwards or Jokic's game. Just really bringing the eras together. And I think Michael Jordan has a chance here to kind of bring the eras together and bridge the gap. And I think that would be really cool to see. And hey, maybe when LeBron retires, he joins MJ on NBC too.
So tell me more about Pick a Side. I love the show. What was the goal when you started it? What are the goals now? How has that evolved, and where can we find it?
The goal when I started it was just to have debates. Pick a side. It's in the name. Have debates, but genuine debates and conversations around sports. Because I, like many other people, I watch First Take and I watch these shows like Undisputed back when it was going with Shannon and Skip. And I love the debate aspect of what they did and what they do in the industry. I think they do it at a really high level, but you can kind of see that it's more of a producer handing them the numbers and what to say than it is like them keeping up with the league and what's going on. And sometimes things can get a little bit over the top where you kind of like, there's no way that that's actually like a takeaway. So I wanted to create a space for sports, a sports show that had debate, but it was nuanced and we used numbers. Like we do a lot of football debates and NBA debates, and there are moments where we get heated, where we yell at each other, we're friends, that happens. But if you listen to the totality of the show, there's never a moment where we're not using evidence or numbers to back up our stances. So I think that is kind of the separator. You can find it on YouTube at Pick a Side, on TikTok at Pick a Side Podcast, on Twitter at Pick a Side Pod. And the goal was just to, make a name for what we do and to kind of bring debate back into the space, but in a nuanced way.
Yeah, it's back. I mean, we've been, both of us, featured on House of Highlights, shouts to House of Highlights, and then we even see Skip Bayless getting into that now. It's like he's doing like the Gen Z version of what he's always done.
Exactly.
It's crazy. Thanks for taking the time. You're always welcome back on the show, and talk soon.
Thank you. I appreciate you for having me on.
Anytime.